Hello, friends, and welcome to The Art Doctor. I'm Nancy Langham Hooper, PhD, art historian, and culture enthusiast, ready to use the great art of the world to help you out. Today, we're going to look at art for lockdown. Now, you may know this as shelter in place or stay at home, but either way, it's all a part of the new COVID reality that is 2020. Now, as far as the global pandemic is concerned, staying at home is not really a big ask. The healthcare workers, frontline workers, people getting sick and dying, they have got it much worse. But for most of us, all we can do, the best we can contribute, is just to stay at home. I live in Melbourne in Australia, and we've just come out of 15 weeks of super harsh lockdown. And during that time, I've learned a few things. I know many of you in the Northern Hemisphere are just starting to lock down again, or maybe going into the biggest lockdown yet. So I'd like to offer you a helpful work of art to get you through it. Not that I'm an overachiever or anything, but I did everything you're supposed to do to get through lockdown. I took up cross-stitch. I got a puppy.
Who's the sweetest puppy? Who's the sweetest puppy? Yes, you are.
I made my very first lemon meringue pie. That went well. But for all that, lockdown is weird, or a better word might be surreal. This is The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali. You probably know it. Everyone has seen these melting clocks sometime or another. They are so famous, you find them everywhere. Salvador Dali was born in 1904 in Catalonia, Spain. When he was a young man, he became part of the Surrealist movement. The Surrealists were a group of early 20th century artists heavily influenced by new discoveries and theories of the brain. They made bizarre art with irrational imagery, incongruous couplings, and whatever this is. Even today, we say something is surreal when it's strange or doesn't make sense. When I was studying art history at university, we learned that the Surrealists were basically this group of guys who kind of centered on Paris and, as you can see, are all men. But actually, the Surrealists had a lot of very strong female artists that helped lead the movement, including Leonora Carrington and Frida Kahlo. So I'd just like to show you guys some of their work here in the interest of balance. And just so you know that sometimes the historical narrative is a little bit male skewed.
No way!
In any case, new theories of psychoanalysis were at the heart of surrealism. Sigmund Freud's idea of the subconscious mind fascinated the artists. Did we really have a side of ourselves we couldn't rationally observe? Could there be a reality in our brains not based in reality? And could the symbols and craziness of our dreams have deeper meanings? Dali used dreamlike symbols in his work to upend the idea of what is real and what is not. In The Persistence of Memory, pocket watches flop over branches and ooze over ledges. Their hands point wherever gravity directs them. The landscape is comprised of the barest of structures: a stick-like tree, a bare brown foreground and background, and two large platforms dominate the left side. One is brown, like land, and one is gray-blue, like the sea. But they don't really look like land or sea. They're too perfectly square. Surprisingly, the recognizable and very real cliffs of Catalonia, Dali's home, can be seen in the right background. But it's the animal forms that make this painting so fascinating and unnerving. Ants gather on the back of a red pocket watch. Some critics have interpreted this as rotting flesh, but I'm not so sure. The ants look pretty decorative to me. A fly sits on a melting clock, its shadow parallel with the minute hand. And, of course, in the middle of the painting we have something human-looking, a blob of flesh with an eyebrow, a nose, eyelashes, Crevices for hips, maybe? But then it trails off into nothing. The brushstrokes just stop. What is it? And of course, we can't see everything of this pseudo face because there is yet another melting pocket watch in our way. To me, it kind of looks like it's sleeping, which would fit in pretty well with the dreamlike elements here. So this is a strange painting, made up of real things precisely drawn in an unreal way. According to Dali, he did this to, quote, systematize confusion and thus help discredit completely the world of reality. Okay, so why am I showing you this in relation to lockdown?
Oh, I know! It's because lockdown is surreal, right?
No, my very attractive friend, lockdown is not surreal. It's worse than that. Lockdown is uncanny. Uncanniness is that feeling that something is familiar but foreign. And you can best see this if you look at faces. So we all know what a face should look like, and we are absolutely programmed to look for certain features in a face. But with these faces, there's something just a little bit off. They are still a face, but it's a bit weird. So uncanniness isn't as flat out bizarre as surrealism. It's just a little bit off. Something just isn't quite right. And lockdown is uncanny. Think about it. You're in your home, everything's normal, but nothing is normal. And now your home is like a prison. And you go outside and the streets, they're just like they were before, but they're eerily silent. It's just like an apocalyptic film. In fact, apocalyptic films are very uncanny. Freud wrote about the uncanny as relates to creepy waxworks and dolls back in 1919. For Freud, the most unnerving things were found in our everyday lives. The uncanny locates strangeness in the ordinary. So think about the things we find scary or creepy. There is always a play on familiar and strange. Murderous clowns? Possessed dolls? Possessed television sets? Yikes! Back to the painting. The persistence of memory creates the uncanny nature of a dream. In dreams, we all know the feeling of being somewhere that is your house, but not your house. Talking to someone who is your friend, but looks like a totally different person. And sometimes, as with the cliffs of Catalonia, the memories are fresh and accurate. But other times, as with the pseudo-face, the real and surreal meet in strange ways. I think this painting best illustrates what it's like to stay at home constantly in the midst of a pandemic. Like in our dreams, time starts to lose all meaning when you're looking at the same four walls constantly, when you're hearing the same bad news every day, when you see the same faces, or lack thereof, from sunrise to sunset. Those melting clocks seem to flop on every surface of our lives, and our memory takes a hit too.
Darling, is it Friday or Saturday? It's Tuesday?
Oh, crap. But by far the most disturbing aspect of lockdown is its uncanny creepiness. Because everything looks normal, and you can forget it's not until you remember. And every time you have that sudden realization and the rush of feeling it brings, it can make you question your reality. And according to Dali, you should be questioning your reality because there is a real behind the real. The surrealists knew that our lives are more than what you can see on the surface or experience with your five senses. Our inner lives, including our subconscious lives, have solid, real-world impacts. How we feel changes our behavior, our outlook, and our approach to relationships, for example. And this is why lockdown is so hard, because it doesn't seem like it would be hard. It seems like the perfect time to take up macrame or write your novel. But you've forgotten about the uncanniness. It's a constant pressure, a distorting force. It stresses you out. Sure, write that novel if you've got the headspace, but be gentle with yourself during lockdown. So if you're feeling a bit uncanny, if you can't remember what you ate for breakfast, if you obsess about COVID numbers, if you feel like everything's fine one moment and then just break down crying the next, been there. I get it. Dali gets it. In the end, after all my optimistic plans failed in various ways, I only had two goals: to come out of lockdown with relationships and sanity intact. That's it. You can be brilliant and productive later. Allow yourself to have this crazy, surreal inner life. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. But it is part of you and part of this ordinary/extraordinary experience so many of us are going through. So let your clocks melt. Let your day be downright weird. You have the art doctor's permission. Well, I hope that helped you out, or at least made you feel less alone in the surreal landscape that is 2020. I've linked to more information about Dali and the Surrealists down in this description box below. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And if you have any ideas for future videos, I'm all ears. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm just starting out, and every subscribe, like, or little hit of that notification bell helps me bring more art to you. So deep breath. You got this. See you next time.